So, Sereniel's out. Obviously, she came out on Tuesday after maintenance, but I just haven't really been doing stuff. Holidays happened, but now we're here. So yeah, so we got, this is our first time getting a seasonal character, a character who's not going to go into the normal rescue banner after the end of her actual banner completion. She is a seasonal character. I mean, she's only going to stay in this recruitment pool until the time is up. Once that finishes, she will no longer be available for any sort of pickup, barring they rerun her banner at some point in the near future. So whether that'll happen next year or in 2 years or in 6 months, nobody knows with Smilegate, and they'll make that decision when they decide that it's actually important for them to do it. Who knows? But yeah. So we'll take a quick peek at her, and we'll kind of go over it really quick. So, Sereniel is a instinct hunter. This is a class and damage type combination that is not super common. Obviously, this is the first time we've actually gotten an instinct attacker. She's definitely going to do a lot of damage outside of what would normally be done with characters like Cassius or Calipe, as they are definitely more built towards support, shielding and support, and manipulation and healing. The important stuff. So Sereniel is a character not unlike Renoa when it deals with kind of how she does stuff. It's all ranged attacks, but instead of bullets, she uses laser beams. Her standard starting deck is 2 pulse fires and a magnetic field. She can also then gain 5 additional cards: homing laser, plasma missile, shining core, cobalt light, and pale shooting star is her ultimate card. I've already kind of looked into a little bit of kind of like how her kit functions. I've watched a couple of other people play. I've watched Hoosh play. She's a freaking beast. And like the fact that she basically just beams shit down with homing lasers is like insanity. She is such a menace. Plus, her ego gives her the ability to actually move any homing laser L's that have been generated in the exhaust pile into the hand. And all homing laser L's have exhaust 2 on them. So once you've used them twice, they go to exhaust pile. You use Death Halo, and she will give them all back to you, which means you can exhaust them twice more. It's so crazy. The amount of just damage that this chick does is crazy. But her whole sort of kit is based around Ravage, which is basically doing additional tenacity damage to enemies as well. So one of her built-in skill abilities is basically that when you do enough damage to Ravage, you move homing lasers from the graveyard back into her hand. And if you have a bunch of these, you just get a bunch of them back in your hand and you start all over again. So it's insane. So the reason why it's really interesting to me is that they actually have her paired with somebody not a lot of people really looked at for very long. Like when she first came out, not a lot of, like when the game first came out, people saw Selena and they were kind of like, solid. She should have been a 5-star. But she's not. She's a 4-star. But that's beside the point. She's still a really strong character. That being said, she does a lot of tenacity damage, not just from tactical maneuver, but also in some of her epiphanies. So it turns out that if you epiphany Selena to do additional tenacity damage, she will do additional marks, which is extra damage, plus the tenacity damage. And that plays into what our good friend Sereniel here is trying to do. And that's pretty much why they want, well, I don't want to say want you to, but they pretty much have it set that like the best combo are these 3 together. You do Sereniel, Nia, Selena, and they just kind of go to town. Nia gives you the ability to just grab as many cards as you possibly can to put more homing lasers into the deck and into your hand. Sereniel will generate an additional amount of tenacity damage, put a bunch of marks on the enemy that you're fighting, and it's just laser bullet, laser bullet, laser bullet, laser bullet. It's crazy. So it's a really good team. Like, this team comp is really strong. I think a few people are also putting together defensive teams with Calliope and Mika, or other people are trying to go into like hard aggro with Sereniel, Chizaru, Ray, which again I kind of understand, and it does kind of help, especially when you're looking at trying to be a bit more aggro in like areas that have more void creatures. So like, it definitely is a thing. Looking at her potentials, her standard potential is adding an additional 50% chance to create one homing laser L to pulse fire, which is her basic attack. Her basic card proficiency is 5% additional damage to her pulse fire, and if her critical chance is greater than 20%, you can add an additional 5% to that modifier, so it adds 10% to her pulse fire. Which again, that's just her basic attack. It's really good. And then her unique stat upgrade is if her critical chance is greater than 30%, you will add additional 10% damage to homing laser, and you gain an additional 5% to that total modifier, making it 15% if you have greater than 60% critical chance. So Sereniel is probably one of the first characters that I have seen personally that I would actually want to activate both of her two top nodes. Because you're not getting rid of her pulse fires. You are not getting rid of her homing lasers. You are going to be using her pulse fires to try to do as much damage as possible in the early part of the fight, and then creating an additional amount of homing lasers so that you can kind of just ravage, regen, ravage, regen. Part of the reason why this combo is so fruitful is because of one of Selena's epiphanies, which, if I remember correctly, is tied to, trying to remember, I had this all planned out and then I've completely forgotten. There it is. So on Tactical Maneuver has an epiphany that's very, very weak initially, like on initial look, which is it reduces the cost from 1 to 0, gains retain, and then if the target is in a ravaged state, recharge tenacity. So the reason why this is really funny and why I think this combo is kind of just ridiculous, and I think a lot of people have shared kind of the same sentiment that I've kind of seen so far, is in that what this means is if I use Sereniel to ravage a monster, let's say a boss, and I know that I can re-ravage it, I will pop this. I will instantly go, oh, you're in a ravage state? Dope. Here, have your tenacity back, so that I can literally just do the exact same thing I just did to you another time. So it's like, it's that whole another one meme. You spend all of it, you ravage it, you get them all back. You you give them back their tenacity bar and recharge it, and then you re-ravage it, you get all the lasers back. You get to do it. You get to do the entire laser combo 3 times. And that just lets you repeat it every single time you get Tactical Maneuver back up. It's so silly. But like, this is the card that I see a lot of people thinking is like, originally when they saw this character, they're like, oh no, we want this, or we want this, or we want the additional tenacity damage. This is hilarious for Sereniel now. Like, this card was bad before, but this is a really funny and really good card now, because it lets you just re-combo Sereniel's lasers to just continue to re-ravage stuff. It's so interesting, and I was like, that's a really funny combo.